I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Usually at this time, we feature a live performance by students from the Hollis schools. Due to the virus, we can't do that tonight. Thanks to the school administration, we have a recording from a couple of years ago of the Hughes Band playing our national anthem. I invite all who are able to stand. And now I invite all serving members of our armed forces and all veterans to stand and be recognized. We thank you for your service. There we go. I invite School Board Chair Rob Mann to introduce the school board.
If it pleases the moderator, I'd like to present Tammy Fareed, our vice chair. Brooke Arthur is our secretary, and Amy Kellner is our representative to our BudCom, and Carol Roy is, I'm sorry, you are policy, and Carol Roy is our representative to BudCom.
I invite Budget Committee Chair Tom Guillen to introduce the Budget Committee.
Thank you. Budget Committee this evening, we have Carol Roy, who is the school board representative to the BudCom, Darlene Mann, Mike Harris, Mike Levitt, Tom Jambard. Can't see the podium.
That's all who are
Thank you.
here. And I invite Superintendent Corey to introduce the school staff and administration.
Tonight we have Gina Bergschlag, Assistant Superintendent, Bob Thompson, Assistant Superintendent, Kelly Seeley, Business Manager, and Ann Elsner, Special Ed Director for the Hollis School District.
There we go. Thank you. Assisting me tonight is our District Clerk, Diane Levitt, and our District Counsel, James O'Shaughnessy. And my assistant moderator in the back is a well-known person, Jim Belanger. We are all concerned about COVID-19. I would like to thank the school and town staff, election officials, and volunteers for their attention to appropriate procedures for this meeting. For the safety of all of us, we ask that attendees wear a mask except when speaking at the microphone. The mics are spaced 15 feet away from anything else, and wipes and hand sanitizer are provided. The mini gym is provided with an AV link and is available for those who are unable to wear a mask. To address concerns about the accuracy of the voting machines, we decided during Election Day to hand count one race. The obvious choice was the Hollis School Board, with 5 candidates vying for 2 spaces. The AccuVote machine is the only voting machine authorized for use in New Hampshire and has been used successfully for many years. As you can see, the results of the hand count were very close to the machine count, well within expected variation. So why are they different at all? The voting machine only looks at the oval that the voter is supposed to fill in. Is there a mark in it or not? Does a partially filled in oval count? The machine cannot tell if the mark is a vote or a crossout. It cannot tell if the mark is a mistake. It cannot tell if the voter wrote in a name but forgot to fill in the oval. Human eyes and judgment are much better at deciding the intent of the voter. I would like to assure you that our election results are solid. The meeting calendar, we still have the co-op annual meeting and the town annual meeting to go. The co-op annual meeting is scheduled for a week from this Saturday at the high school at the lacrosse field. If you stand at the lower entrance to the school, facing the school, the lacrosse field is on the left. If we have a rain situation, we have a rain date of the 17th of April, and if we're still backed up by weather, we have some other alternatives in mind. That's the same field where last summer's Hollis Town meeting was held. The Hollis Town meeting for 2021 is also going to be at the lacrosse field, and it is scheduled for Saturday, May 15th at 10 a.m. Resources available to follow this meeting. There is live video on Charter Channel 191 or TDS Channel 12, or it can be live streamed from SAU.org website. Also on the SAU.org website, if you click down a bit, is a copy of the annual meeting warrant, a copy of this presentation, and the proposed budget. On the town website, you can get a copy of the annual report, or there's hard copies back there in the corner. It contains the town and school district budgets, department, committee, and school reports, and lots more. There are 4 sets of emergency exits in this room, 2 in the back and 2 in the front. The fire department would like to ask you to keep those exits clear. We are recruiting. You may have noticed that no one ran for the position of Hollis School District Moderator. The district needs someone who is interested in becoming moderator, and our team of assistants could use a few more helpers. If you are interested in any of these, please see me after the meeting. I recognize Mr. Corey.
I just wanted to take a moment and thank the Budget Committee and the school board for all their efforts this year. As you know, it's been a very difficult and unique year, and I wanted to thank them for their support and their dedication to the students of Hollis. I also wanted to thank the community members who have stepped forward to assist us and volunteer at our health clinics and make everything work this year so far. And I thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you.
We are here tonight to discuss and act on the subjects brought forward on the warrant by your school board. To do so effectively, we need rules which provide order and structure to the business of the meeting. Rules must be set for each meeting so folks understand how to get things done. I will propose a set of rules and then ask voters to adopt them. Once adopted, it takes a 2/3 vote to change. As a reminder, Robert's Rules is only a guide. They do not control how this meeting is run. You can find a copy of my rules in your town report on page 215 in the yellow section. I know these are in the co-op section of the report, but I wanted to save a few trees by putting them where both districts and the town can find them. In the next few slides, I will touch on just a couple points. If you wish to speak, come up to the microphone and show your voting card. Please wait to be recognized by the moderator. This gym is not designed as a meeting hall, so it is sometimes difficult to hear. Announce your name and address clearly so the clerk can hear it. Your time is limited to 3 minutes and cannot be yielded or transferred to someone else. For Hollis School District, I allow 3 minutes, although the co-op rules say 2. By prior arrangement, presentations can be up to 10 minutes. Other than the school board and the budget committee, we don't have any prepared presentations. When you get close to your time limit, I will give you a signal. And when your time has passed, I will give you another signal. Be germane, and if possible, be brief. Avoid repeating points that have already been made. Above all, be courteous. It is possible to disagree without being disagreeable. Disruptive behavior, personal attacks are out of line, out of bounds, and out of order. The purpose of a point of order is to bring to the moderator's attention that the meeting rules are not being followed. It can also be used to appeal a ruling of the moderator. It cannot be used to ask a question or make a motion. Those can only be done when the voter has the floor. A motion to reconsider is useful and appropriate if new information comes to light or spending approaches the 10% rule limit. It allows voters to discuss a matter further and vote again. The motion can only be made by a person who voted on the prevailing side. It is debatable and requires a simple majority to pass. Allowing debate on a motion to reconsider is a change from the printed rules. A motion to restrict reconsideration does not block reconsideration of a previous motion or article. If passed, it requires that any subsequent reconsideration of the vote cannot occur for at least 7 days. The motion is not debatable and is in order at any time the voter has the floor. My copy of Robert's Rules is more than an inch thick. It is simply not possible to condense down all possible motions and situations that can occur into just a few pages. State law gives the moderator the responsibility for making rulings on such matters as things come up. However, this is your meeting. State law also gives the voters at the meeting the ability to appeal and overrule any interpretation of the rules that the moderator may make. If you disagree with a ruling, come to the microphone and raise a point of order. The meeting then has the opportunity to vote on a ruling. If the ruling is a direct application of one of the meeting rules, you need to suspend or change the rules rather than make an appeal. Those actions require a 2/3 vote. Shall the school district vote to adopt the rules for this meeting as proposed by the moderator? Moved by Drew Mason, seconded by Mr. Harris. Is there any discussion of the rules? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting the rules, please raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed? And the rules are adopted. A quick overview of the warrant. The Article 1 is a collective bargaining agreement with the Hollis Education Support Staff Association. Article 2 is the SAU budget and will require a vote by secret ballot. Articles 3 and 4 are maintenance funds for the SAU building and the school buildings. Article 5 is the Special Education Expendable Trust. Article 6 is the Contingency Fund. Article 7 is a new one, allowing the district to accept and expend future unanticipated revenues. Article 8 is a contingent article in case Article 7 passes. Article 9 is the school budget, and Article 10 is any other business. And now I recognize Mr. Guillen. Do you want this, or do you want me to?
That's okay. All right, thanks everyone. Try to go through this with some haste. Hollis Demographics, we always start off with, we've got about 7,900 residents in our town. If you look at the trends from 30 years ago, in 1990, we've had really significant growth, almost 40%. The last 10 years, it's slowed significantly. Having said that, we do have some lagging indicators, for example, building permits, new housing stock that indicate that we may be seeing another growth spurt here. There's anecdotal discussion or evidence that the pandemic has caused people to relocate from major metropolitan areas, and we all know Hollis is a very desirable place to be, so we're getting new neighbors. As I said, just under 3,000 households. Income is there. Property valuation, to go back to the point I just made, increased almost 2% between 2019 and 2020. Over 80% of that was attributable to new housing stock, not appreciation. So that's another indicator that we may be experiencing some growth in the near term. Average home values were virtually flat at around $457,000. And the single-family average tax bill for a single-family residence was virtually unchanged, went up about 0.5%. Which one am I going to hit? There we go. This shows a long-term trend in enrollment in our Hollis schools. Does not include the co-op. You can see back in the early noughts, there was a peak of 866. That has steadily declined over time. The crosshatch columns to the right of the graph are forecasts that we get from NESDEC, which is our data consortium, if you will, that predicts enrollment, and that shows an upward trend. We look at those with a grain of salt because they tend to vary significantly year to year, but again, this does seem to suggest that we're going to be experiencing some growth in the near term. I won't belabor this one. Many folks aren't aware of how many folks we have employed by the school district. As you can see from this slide, we've got about 134, and the vast majority of those folks are union employees. If you look at the very right margin, you'll see HEA and HESSA. That's the Hollis Education Association and the Hollis Education Support Staff Association. We are going to be considering the third year of a 3-year contract for HESSA tonight. This graph combines the enrollment trend on a shorter span that we saw a moment ago with the staffing level in the school district. The yellow line is the staffing level, and the columns, the blue columns, are the number of students enrolled. As you can see, back around 2007, there was something of a disconnect between staffing and students. Staffing went up, students went down. Over time, that corrected, if you will, and in the course of working with the administration and the school board each year, we carefully look at trends in employment along with trends in enrollment and want to see some connect there. Now, having said that, there are circumstances, for example, special education, that are particularly resource intensive. So relatively few students can drive staffing levels either up or down because of the unique nature of that service. This graph takes a moment to orient. Unlike all the other graphs we've seen where the axis or 0 is at the bottom, in this graph, 0 is at the top. And what it illustrates is, you can think of these columns as hanging down. They're negative values that represent the class size in Hollis School District compared to the education specifications that were voted on in the town many years ago. And as you can see in recent history and in the coming year, we are forecasting below those education spec levels in all classes. Part of that is it's a step function. You know, you can't have 2.4 sections of kindergarten or 4.3 sections of 5th grade. So we make sure that we don't go above, and as a result, we typically are always below. Another measure that we look at is the cost per pupil. This graph shows over time the growth in Hollis cost per pupil and the state level, and you can see over time it's increased significantly. These numbers are adjusted for inflation. This lags. I get this number from the state, and I think I'm having trouble here. We're at 12, or the state's at, I'm sorry, the state is just below us. We're at about 12.9. This is a graph I think, you know, has some real value. We look at those costs per pupil, they're significant. The trend is high. Years ago, the school board identified 120 school districts in the state that are considered comparable to Hollis. You know, we take out in Manchester, we take out Nashua, we take out, you know, the tiny towns up in the North Country. And the resulting population of school districts, this is a comparison of our cost per pupil relative to those 120 districts. And as you can see from the left margin of the graph, 2004, we were at 42%, meaning we were higher than only 42% of the school districts. Over time, we climbed to almost 80% as a percentile, so we're very, very expensive relative to other school districts. That has come down significantly in the last 10 or 11 years, and we've seen a recent uptick just in the last year or two as we've approved 2 major infrastructure investments in the school district, the HSTEP and the capital investments that were approved at last year's annual meeting. Okay, the 10% rule, I'm not going to go into this in detail. I think it's unlikely this is going to become operative tonight, but if it does, we're going to be keeping an eye on it. Basically, state law requires that the meeting be limited to the amount of money that can be appropriated by 10% more than what the Budget Committee has recommended. The Budget Committee has recommended all these articles. You can see the math there, that if motions from the floor were to increase the warrant articles in total by more than $1.4 million, that would not be approved by the state for our spending. I think that's unlikely to happen tonight, but we'll keep an eye on it. All right. Okay. The Hollis School District tax rate. You can see year 2020 versus 2021. That's the year we're considering this evening, fiscal year 22. Operating budget goes up 4.2%. In the warrant article discussion of the operating budget, you're going to see what's driving that. It's largely driven by employee benefits. Retirement and health insurance went up, I believe, in the neighborhood of about $300,000. Warrant articles went down. Revenues decreased. A lot of the revenue decrease was due to the fact that in last year, underspending due to the initial pandemic shutdown appeared in last year's fiscal numbers as revenue. This year, we're not underspending, so we're not getting that windfall in revenue, if you will. Most of the other items are changing nominally. You can see the expectation of the tax rate for the Hollis School District goes up about 3.3% to $8.18. The state tax is levied, it's beyond our control from Concord. So all in, we're anticipating an increase in the tax rate attributable to the Hollis School District of 3%. This is simply a split between our taxing entities, the two school districts, the town, and the county. It always equals 100%, so the analogy I always use every year is it's like a balloon. You squeeze in the middle, the ends are going to bulge. You can see over time, the school district has gone up, Hollis School District in red has gone up slightly from 36 to 39%. The significant mover here, I think, is the co-op school district, as we've seen a trend in enrollment that favors Hollis, though I think that has been interrupted, and also some paying off of long-term debt in the co-op. The average Hollis tax bill, always a topic of interest. The yellow line is the nominal or current year dollars. You can see since 2010, it's increased to $10,600 roughly. If you look at the blue number, that's adjusted for regional inflation, and the tax rates actually, or excuse me, the average tax bill has actually gone down about $600 on a typical home. And I believe that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Article 1, to see if the school district will vote to approve the cost items included in the 3-year collective bargaining agreement reached between the Hollis School Board and the Hollis Education Support Staff Association for the 2021-22 school year, which calls for the following increases in support staff salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels. Fiscal year 2021 to 22, $55,034. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $55,034 for the fiscal year, such sum representing the negotiated increase over the 2020-21 salaries and fringe benefits. The school board recommends it 500. The budget committee recommends it 800. The estimated net tax impact is 3 cents per thousand. Moved by Carol Roy, seconded by Brooke Arthur. Ms. Fareed.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. As you can see, this is the 3rd year of a 3-year contract negotiated 3 years ago with our support staff. This contract covers 4 categories of employees: custodians, secretaries, food service workers, and para-educators. I want to point out this year the contract increase is $55,000 over last year. 4 years ago, there was a contract increase for a 1-year contract with HESSA that was $58,000. This contract has been consistently prudent. We were able to, if we could, I don't have the clicker, so if somebody wants to advance the slide. Oh, I'm sorry, you already have, I beg your pardon. You can see that you can see the salary increases in the step tables. You can see the 3-year agreement. There was no Sanbornizing of this contract, which is why each year we're voting on the subsequent year. Health insurance, we were able to retain a favorable policy across the district, which helps the taxpayers as well as our employees significantly. And you can see there was no cost change to that. Don't worry, I'm not going to read all this. We showed you this slide 2 years ago, we showed you this slide last year, and we're showing you this slide again this year for the 3rd and final year of this contract. We were able to negotiate some significant improvements in our management rights within this contract without any loss to the employee rights of those that are covered by this contract. And that's it. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any discussion of Article 1? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 1, please raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, raise your cards. Article passes by card vote. Mr. Mann.
Mr. Moderator, I move to change the order and take Article 2 and put it after Article 9. The reason for this is the board wants to maximize the safety for our participants. And so when it's a ballot vote, the last thing we have to do is vote, and then folks can exit the building. So we would like to move that change.
Motion to move Article 2 after Article 9. Second by, there you go, Brooke Arthur. Any discussion of moving Article 2 after Article 9? Seeing none, all in favor of moving Article 2 after Article 9, please raise your cards. Thank you. Any opposed? And we will take this up at the end of the meeting. Article 3, Maintenance Fund for SAU Building at 4 Lund Lane. To see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate up to the sum of $23,970 to be added to the previously established Maintenance Fund for Administrative and Associated Structures at 4 Lund Lane in Hollis, map 56, lot 2. This amount to come from the unassigned fund balance available for transfer on July 1 of this year. This amount represents rental proceeds and unexpected maintenance funds to be received from SAU 41. The school board recommends it 500. The budget recommends it 800. Estimated net tax impact 0. Moved by Carol Roy, seconded by Brooke Arthur. Ms. Arthur.
Thank you. Can people hear me okay? Yes, okay. So this number we're looking at, $23,970, is the total amount of rent proceeds that was collected for the rental property that houses the SAU buildings. It will be added to the maintenance fund because the Hollis School District owns that property. We maintain a maintenance fund to take care of projects that inevitably arise in maintaining a property. There is an additional slide for this. Yeah, so it's basically a savings account. No monies were spent out of it last year, but as projects arise, we need to have the funds there to take care of the property. Thank you.
Any discussion on Article 3?
Brandon Buteau, 11 Buttonwood Drive.
Mr. Buteau.
I'm just curious, what is the current size of the fund now, and what is the... thank you. Thank you. And then the other question is, what is the estimated size of the, with the so-called uncommitted fund balance or whatever, that this is going to be pulled out of?
It's not pulled out of a fund. It's the $23,970 that's to be added this year is the total amount of rent that was collected collectively from the three school districts that the SAU pays in rent.
Oh, I understand, but there's a reference in the article to the unassigned fund balance, and I was just curious what that amount currently is. Or, I know it's an estimate, it would be an estimate now because it's not going to be finalized until the end of the year.
If I understand the way the money moves, it goes from the rental to the unassigned fund balance, from
Okay, so it
there
doesn't-
to here.
Yeah,
So
it's a wash.
it's a wash for relative to the balance. Do I have that correct? Close enough.
Fine, yeah,
Right.
all right, all right, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Moderator, for continuing your service and volunteering at least temporarily.
Chris Opelka, Moore Hill Road.
Ms. Opalka.
Brandon took two of my questions. My third one would be, what is the anticipated amount that you want this fund balance to get to?
That's an interesting question. I don't,
Does the budget committee have any,
I can defer to,
input
I can
as
defer to
to what it
Kelly
should
on
be?
that. I mean, maintenance things do come up. There has been money spent out of this fund in the past, just not in this past year. I don't know if anyone in the administration wants to add to that.
There is presently, first of all, no cap on the fund. The fund's primarily been used to update bathrooms, redo carpeting, repair windows, things of that nature. So this is, since I've been here, one of the higher balances we've had in the maintenance trust, and that's because we're playing catch up on some of our maintenance items at the SAU.
Okay.
Any further discussion on Article 3? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting Article 3, please raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed? And Article 3 is adopted. Article 4, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate up to the sum of $120,000 to be added to the previously established School Buildings Maintenance Fund from the Hollis School District's June 30, 2021 unassigned fund balance available for transfer on July 1, 2021. The school board recommends this 5-0-0. The Budget Committee recommends this 8-0-0. The estimated net tax impact is 0. Failure to pass this could potentially be returned to the taxpayers as 9 cents per thousand. Moved by Carol Roy, seconded by Brooke Arthur. Ms. Roy.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Hi, everybody. The purpose of the School Building Maintenance Fund is to act as a savings account to carry forward funds for major building maintenance. The funding is the unreserved fund balance surplus. The oversight, major expenditures are proposed by the administration. School board evaluates and presents the plan to the Budget Committee for input, and the school board makes final approval of expenditures. On our next slide, actually I think I talked through this one, so the next one please, moderator. Thank you. You'll see some examples of what this will be spent on. The FY22 projected opening balance is $82,155. The 2022 proposed funding here is $120,000. And you can see some of the proposed projects include flooring, mats and door renovation, roof drain cleaning, sanitary sewer eval, playground fence, and fence and structures at both HPS and Hughes. The FY22 project's total cost is expected to be around $114,500, leaving us with a projected FY22 ending balance of $87,655. I'll take any questions.
Any discussion of Article 4? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 4, please raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, please raise your cards. Thank you. Motion passes by our card vote. Article 5, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate up to the sum of $25,000 to to be added to the previously established Special Education Expendable Trust Fund. The sum to come from the Hollis School District's June 30, 2021 unassigned fund balance, available for transfer on July 1, 2021. The school board recommends 500. The budget committee recommends 800. Estimated tax impact is 0, but if this article failed, that funds could represent a potential tax reduction of 2 cents a thousand. Moved by Carol Roy, seconded by Brooke Arthur. Ms. Kellner.
The Special Education Trust Fund is a tool established to manage unanticipated costs relating to special education. On the next slide, you'll see some examples of those types of costs. The school district is obligated to fund these costs, and this fund lessens the risk that general education programs would be impacted by unforeseen special education costs.
Any discussion of Article 5? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting Article 5, please raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed? Thank you. Article 5 passes by a card vote. Article 6, to see if the school district will vote to establish a contingency fund for the current year for unanticipated expenses that may arise, and further, to raise and appropriate a sum of $95,000 to go into the fund. This sum to be raised by taxation. Any appropriation left in the fund at the end of the year will lapse to the general fund. The school board recommends 500. The budget committee recommends 800. The net tax impact is 5 cents per thousand. Moved by Carol Roy, seconded by Brooke Arthur. Ms. Arthur.
So this $95,000 contingency fund is a little bit different than the ones we've spoken on before, previous to this, in that it does not roll over. For example, last year, that money was not spent, so it will return to the general fund. But it is a contingency for anything unforeseen and fiscally responsible. Thank you.
Is there any discussion of Article 6? Mr. Butow. Mike?
Is it on? There it is.
There we
Thank
go.
you. I'm just curious, what is there a recommended level of contingency fund for, say, percentage of budget in this state? Or a typical level for similar school districts?
I don't know the answer to that. I know that this was the same amount as last year, so I'll defer to the administration if there's a specific answer to a recommended amount to propose each year.
Sort of the question is why this particular amount and not more or less?
Thank you, Andy.
This was the amount that we had when I started. It has been appropriate. We've seen no reason to increase it because we have the special ed trust and a couple other funds that we can go to, like the maintenance trust. So this is geared more like if we lost a boiler or something like that, totally unexpected. The only other place we've thought about using it is if we had a surge in enrollment over the summer and needed to hire a teacher, this is the fund we'd go to.
Okay. So this was, for example, from last year, this was adequate to handle any cost impacts from pandemic realignments and things, or?
I would say this fund was not touched by the pandemic because of the state funds that came to the HESSA and the federal government. This, to me, is really that fully loaded teacher cost, and that's really where we were most concerned, is if we had a new section in grade 3 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion of Article 6? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting Article 6, please raise your cards. Thank you. All opposed, please raise your cards. And the article passes by card vote. Now, this is a new one. Shall the school district accept the provisions of RSA 198:20-B, providing that any school district at an annual meeting may adopt an article authorizing indefinitely, until specific rescission of such authority, the school board to apply for, accept, and expend, without further action by the school district, unanticipated money from a state, federal, or other governmental unit, or a private source which becomes available during the fiscal year. The school board recommends 500. The budget committee recommends 800. Estimated tax impact, none. Moved by Carol Roy, seconded by Brooke Arthur. Ms. Roy.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We don't have any supplemental slides. You can see this is an RSA. So if there are any questions, we're happy to field those. If this article does not pass, we do have Article 8. It is the contingent article here, just for your record.
Mr. Garuba. You have a voting card.
Thank you. Joe Garuba, 28 Winchester Drive. Though I specifically recommend against passage of this article, the acceptance of federal money and even private money it's an important power of the voters in our town. This year we had to accept funds in the CARES Act, and that's an unusual situation that was created by the pandemic. But in most cases, federal grant money comes with strings. It's important for the voters of our town to have a chance to weigh in on how the federal government influences our town, and possibly even private entities, based on the language of that article. Each grant is unique and comes with different stipulations and requirements. For example, there's a federal grant this year at the town level for an SRO, that's a Safety Resource Officer, it's a police officer. This year that grant has 16 pages of requirements that come with the federal money. There are many conditions of accepting the grant which town residents need to consider before the town is obligated in a way that's unintended or undesirable. For example, retaining the power to approve these grants comes at no cost to the voters, since uncontroversial items are often accepted without debate, as we've seen here tonight. Why would we as voters choose to give away more of our power? It's important to vote no on this article to preserve your own power as a voter and the authority of this legislative body. Each of us has taken the time to be here tonight to ensure the quality of our schools. It's important to preserve all the authority we have to influence the education of our children. Please vote no on this article. Thank you.
David Sachs, 43 Jambard Road, Hollis.
Mr. Sachs.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thanks for serving tonight. I'm not quite sure if I fully understand the impact of what this means. I mean, I read it. I'm trying to understand what's the case. Where is the exposure to the voters to take this? I'm just listening to the comments of the previous speaker. I don't see here anything that says we are coerced or compelled to use money, but that we're authorizing essentially the board to receive these monies. But can someone help me understand a case, COVID aside, where this would make sense? And why are you asking for this?
Working on it. They're working on it.
Thanks for the question, David. We're going to get our legal counsel up too to help out with the legalese that'll go with it.
There's no shot clock. You have time.
David, were you talking about the legal piece, or what does the article allow us to do? Like, because every year we receive IDEA money, which is special ed grant that every school district across the country receives.
Yeah.
That comes in, And this article, just like the one that if we pass this, we won't do, allows the school board to accept those funds.
So have you worked on this before, Mayor? Okay. So have you worked on this before, Andy? Like in the prior years, without this authorization, did you bring an article each year and say, can we accept the money? Or did, this is the first time I think I've seen this, if I'm not mistaken.
If you could click the article. Article 8. This is what the article we've been using all those years, David. And legal counsel is recommending that the new wording in Article 7 replace this. So if the voters say no to Article 7 tonight, this is the article that's been coming before the voters every year that will ask for your approval.
Okay.
Article 7, as Jim will get up and explain, gives it a little more legal ease.
Okay, and while you're hopping along here, is it fair to say that when we voted on the kind of year-by-year article, this is passed almost overwhelmingly every year? I'm trying to understand what's the exposure to me as a voter.
Okay, so the reason I recommended this is because we encounter situations throughout the year where the district will have access to grant funds, which are outside of the budget, private gifts, which are outside of the budget, impact fees, which are outside of the budget, and all kinds of other smaller revenue sources. I get the call from the superintendent and the business administrator, and I have to inform them that you have to go to the voters to even receive the funds, and you can't expend the funds. They just become part of the general fund. Then they turn into unassigned fund balance. The purpose of this warrant article, this law has been in place for a lot of years, is really just to clean up how you guys operate so that you can receive the funds on a yearly basis and expend them. It requires if the funds are over $5,000, the board has to hold a public hearing. It's really just a more efficient way, and that's why the legislature allows districts to do it with the legislative body approval.
Okay, so it's not compelling us to do something we don't want to do. It's allowing us to operate in a more effective way, not having to call voters to approve this, and we still have to have a hearing if it's over $5,000.